Hi, this is Nigel Wilson. I am recording this video for you to replace the 18th of December 2024 webinar video, which we had some issues with. So what I'll do is I'll go through the same content, perhaps a little bit more rapidly than in the video, but let's see how we go. Let's get into it. On the screen, you see a run-through instruction file called simple file. It has in it just the 4 frames, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through and do the things in this list. This is like these are things that people ask us on a reasonably frequent basis about how to use the run-through instruction application, and there's a dozen things on this list here. We're not going to go through them exactly sequentially because some of them will logically come together, but these are the topic areas that we're going to go through. So the first one on the list here is controlling the counting, restarting the counting, and different numbering methods for the counting. So as you know, of course, that the application, as you add additional content to any screen, it's going to give you 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and so on. It's a reasonably common request to say, well, how do we restart the numbering? For example, at this point in the document, I want it to start from number 1 again. Well, the easiest way of doing that is to use the properties panel. If you can't see the properties panel, you need to come up here and reset the layout so that you can see the properties panel. But it's in this properties panel that you're able to reset the numbering. So a little bit about the properties panel that's important is if there is an item selected on the canvas, then it will give you the properties for the selected item. If there is nothing selected, it gives you the properties for the frame. And it's the properties for the frame that give you the opportunity to restart the counter numbering from this frame. So if I don't select number 3 here, I can click on this and the numbering will restart from this frame. And it will continue down through the rest of the document. In the case of a text frame, such as this one here, the option appears underneath here, restart the count numbering from this frame, and that will restart it and go through the document from this point here. A related area here is where the numbering might actually start. Now, it's obviously this starts at number 1, and almost all of the documents that you do start at number 1, but it doesn't have to be that way. In the advanced section here in properties, there is this dialog box, and in the dialog box you could start the numbering in this document from a different point. So you could start at 10 or 20 or whatever you want just by putting a number into this box. Please note, and look, we'll do this quickly, please note that if you put a 10 in here, it doesn't automatically refresh until it thinks it needs to recount. And by adding a new option here on this page, it will recount for us. So we'll just pop that out of the way. You can see it starts at 10 and goes through to 12 in this document. We'll put it back at number 1 and we'll do the same thing. We'll just add something on here or remove it, and it will just do the recounting for us. So that's basically all I wanted to cover in these couple of points here: controlling the countering, restarting the countering, and where to start the numbers from. This little A and B and C here, I just wanted to point out that if you select an item in the list on the canvas, so not just the picture, but an item on the canvas here, you'll get the opportunity to change this counter level for this object to a second level. So this will make this 1A. So you can have 1A, 1B, 1C, and so forth, should you wish to do so. So that's a little bit about numbering, and that was the first item on the list here. Page breaks is in Microsoft Word. This is a pretty common request. Is when we publish, how do we insert a page break to go between the title and something else, or between the topics and the content? So if we publish to Word, we'll do this quickly for you here, and we'll have a look at what we've got. So this is the pretend brand Contossi that we use for demonstration purposes. And here you might have the situation where you want to just have the title on its own page and some content underneath the title, but topics you want to move on to the next page. So let's do that. So we want to put a page break before topics. That's what we want to do. So there's 2 ways of doing this. We're going to come into the topics one here, and we're going to say we're going to say on the topics one here, what we want to do is insert a page break before this frame in Word. So this little checkbox here that appears under the restart counter numbering, that's going to achieve what we wanted to achieve. So we'll publish it out and we'll have a quick look at it in Word, and you'll see here that it is in fact push down topics onto the next page. So that's one way of doing it, and it's a nice simple way of doing it, and you can do it inside the application. The alternative way of doing it, and this will give me an opportunity to point at the title style for this document. The title style is heading 1. That matches inside of the output to heading 1 in the Word document. And heading 1 in the Word document can be taught to put a page break ahead of it automatically. So let's just minimize this for a second, and we'll actually have a look at the template file itself. So this is the template file, the Word template file in the target folder that we've used in the theme that we've used for run-through instruction, this one particular run-through instruction file. So in here is the word template.dotx, in run-through templates, and in my case Contossi, and in your case your company name. If you double click on this, you won't get the result that we're looking for. It will just open up as an untitled document. You need to right click on it and choose open. So right clicking on it and choose open, we get inside the document called word template.dotx, and in here you can see that there's some nonsense inside of here that I'm going to point out what this does afterwards. We'll tidy it up for the moment. In fact, yeah, we'll just leave it like that. But what I wanted to do was say, this is heading 1 inside of this document. I can change heading 1. And that means any time that we create something in run-through instruction that publishes to Word using heading 1, it will go to line and page breaks inside the paragraph settings. It can put automatically a page break before. So you're telling Word what to do with this content. So if we save this file, we come back to, we'll pop that out of the way, we come back to run through instruction, and it's not checked here, insert page break, but it is heading 1. We push the go button, and lo and behold, on topics, there's a page break before it. So that's a second way of doing it, and I think quite a powerful way of doing it. It makes it easier than having to worry about checking boxes inside of the application. Okay, so that was page breaks. This next one here is called content before and after in Word. Let's publish one more time. In general, when you publish, you will get content that appears after everything else in the document. Let's leave that there for a second, and we'll go back to the template that we just had open. Open that one more time, because the scenario here, what we want to do is we want to add like this target so that there is some content before and some content after your run through instruction content. So your run through instruction content is going to go here. So this is a way that you can have your run through instruction content go between other things in your Word template. And that's what we're trying to do. So insert, and if we go to bookmarks, we can make a bookmark in here called walkthrough content. Now walkthrough is the old name for run through, so it was renamed a number of years ago, but we still use the same bookmark name. So if you put this bookmark somewhere in your Word template, spelled exactly like this, and then that will be where the content goes to live. So we'll save the file and we'll publish again, and what you should see is this final line appearing after the content and this first line appearing before the content. That's what we're going for. So we'll pop this out of the way and we'll go back to run through instruction, and we'll republish the Word document. And the only thing really to look for here is at the end of the document we should see this, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So it's inserting the content into that bookmark that you've created in the Word template in Microsoft Word. That's how that one works. Let's clear the decks a little bit. All right. Oh, yeah. This one's really good. This is called converting from existing Word files. This is a pretty popular topic, and it's only in the last short period of time, the last few months, that we've found some new and interesting ways of doing this. So I'd like to show you how that works now. So let's grab this. So here's Microsoft Word. Document 18, so this is just a vanilla empty Word document, and into it we're going to pretend that we have some content that is in text format, and we're going to have some content that is visual. It needs to be a screenshot, doesn't need to be, but it's going to be a screenshot. So here's a screenshot. We're going to do a snipping tool here, and we'll grab this piece of the screen, most of the screen, and we'll paste it in. All right, so this is a scenario that I'm sure many of you are going to be familiar with. You have a Word document, and in the Word document, you have pictures and you have text, and you want to bring those across to Runthru instruction so that you can work on them, right? So there's a couple of things. There's a number of things. It's not going to be super simple. It's never going to be super simple because every Word document's a bit different. It's not like we could write something clever that interpreted your Word document and magically took all any markup off images and red circles and things and converted all the text and put it into frames. So it's not going to be super simple. But we want to find ways of getting the images and the text across in the easiest possible way. And so here's one way that you might be able to do that. First and foremost, let's talk about how you get pictures into here. Now, you guys are familiar, I'm sure, with this little circular snapping tool. We're not going to use that for this. We're going to use this thing here. This is called auto paste. Auto paste is a way that you can get pictures in when you capture them. So the name is quite telling here. If you copy, it pastes. So if you had your screenshot here and you use the snipping tool and you copied it, it will auto paste into this environment. Auto paste, that's what it does. And so you can use the same concept here. We'll move that one out of the way. Actually, I'm regretting doing that. Let me bring it back, because what I want to show you here is that's kind of perfect resolution. So we did Windows snipping tool, it copied, because that's what the Windows snipping tool does, and this auto paste, so you end up with the picture inside of here, and it's great resolution, right? That's how that works. So we'll delete this frame, we'll just turn that off for a second, and we'll go back to a Word document. So here's our Word document, and here's the problem, and many of you have experienced this. If you copy this picture, it will paste into Runthru instruction, but the resolution's not very good. So I'd like to do that for you now so we can have a look at it. So we'll do auto paste. We'll right click on the picture in Microsoft Word and we'll copy it, and it will auto paste into here. But the quality's lousy. So this is a bit of an issue, right? If you want to copy stuff out of Word, if you've ever done this, you'll have had this experience. Word just doesn't play nice when you're copying pictures out of it and pasting them anywhere. Doesn't matter where you're pasting them anywhere, they're not going to be the prettiest things. So this one here, we might title this actually, we'll just call it From Word. So this is copying from Word generically, right? Just copying it straight out of Word. All right, so here's trick number one for getting this picture out of Word and making it look nice on the other end. In Word, right-click, size and position, changing it from whatever yours says to 100%. And I hit Tab, which refreshes this over here as well. So it's 100, 100, 100% scale, 100% scale, and it gets bigger in here, which means you can't really print it too well, but good enough. We're going to go back into Runthru instruction. We're going to turn on the auto capture. Yep, turn on auto capture, and then we'll come in here, and this is now at 100% in Word. Right-click, copy, and what we hope to get inside of here is a new picture. So it seems like it is. Is it this one on the bottom of the list? Yes. So this is much better than this one. So this one copied straight out of Word at 60 whatever it was %. Gets a bit ugly when it gets in here. but if you make it 100%, it's much clearer, much clearer. So that's one way, and a good way, of getting your Word pictures over into here so that you can use them. So we'll call this from Word at 100%. Yep. And so that is that's in good shape. So let's turn off the auto capture again and go back to Microsoft Word. Where are you? All right, so here we are back in Word. We'll undo this change. So this is back where we were. We'll get the text out in a minute, but I want to show you another way of getting the images out of here, and this will give me a chance to talk a little bit about the way that Word thinks about this content. Let's say there's lots and lots and lots of pictures in the document. You basically want to export them and then be able to bring them in to Runthru instruction and draw on them. So that's the case that we're trying to address. This is one way of doing it. Save as, let's save as, and we will put it into this folder here, and we won't make it a Word document. We will make it a web page. So some content.html, so we're saving it to a web page. All right, so we've saved it to a web page. Let's go find that web page. Let me find that for you. And that would be on the other screen. Webinar example. Here we go. So this is what we've just made. This is the file that we're working on. This is the new HTML file. Let's double click on that. This is what Word has created. This is the Word file. And over here, this is the interesting bit, is in a little folder, it makes pictures. And these pictures, this one in particular, is a higher resolution picture than the one that you copy when you right-click inside of Word. Those of you sharp of eye will notice here that that file, that image number 1 file, is 105 kilobytes. The image number 2 file is 116, but we've only got one picture. This is interesting because the better resolution one is this one here. And I can't explain this, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in this area, but you'll find that if you import this one into Runthru instruction, you're going to get a good result. And I'd like to show that to you now. Here we are in instruction again. We've got the two Word files. I'm going to turn on auto paste once more, but I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to select both of them, right click, and I'm going to copy. And what that will do is it will put 2 pictures on the clipboard and it will paste them both in here. And I've put them in between these other 2, which I didn't want to do. So let's have a look at them. So these are 2 images that I've copied from the file system and put them here inside of Runthru instruction. And you'll see that one of them is there's a really nice, perfect resolution, and the other one looks the same, but it's not as nice. It's just not as nice. So that exporting and putting that into these folders here, it made 2 versions of the same picture for different use cases. One of them is the full resolution one, which in this case kind of bizarrely is a bit smaller, and the other one is this recreation, which is not as clear, which it must use for previewing or some such thing. But if you export to this HTML, then you'll get all the images in here and you can bring them all in, typically by clicking on them and all selecting them, right click and saying copy when autopaste is turned on. So that's how to get better quality images out of Microsoft Word and get them into Runthru instruction. So let's remove the ones we don't want. We'll delete, 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 delete. And I want to show you that one final thing related to Word, which is how to bring in textual elements. Now you can just draw the objects, draw the markup and paste into the markup boxes, but this is kind of a cool way of doing it. If you've got text content here, you can just select it, you can drag it onto here and drop it, and it will form up into these little counter boxes for you like so. Now, it makes the one with the arrow by default, but if you want the one with the little rectangle, the area tool, make sure it's selected before you drop the content onto the page, and then what it will do is it will make one with a box attached to it, and likewise the one without a box or without an arrow if you drag the content in and this is selected. So that is a way that you can get the text into this environment as well. Okay, so we've got some content here and some content here. Let's go back to our list of things. So this was converting from files by copying pictures out and getting the text out of the file by dragging and dropping it onto the canvas. We did that one. Versioning. Okay, so as most of you know, we don't have a database and check-in and check-out and that sort of stuff. We do leverage things like SharePoint for that, but there is some simple versioning inside the application that I'd like to show you now. So in Advanced, in Document, you can do some simple versioning. And I'll show you an example of that. So this is my great document in the document properties section. This is where we did the start counters from. And in version information, here we go, we can create a table that goes inside of the run-through instruction file effectively for your own records, or if you're sharing the files with other people. A good start, we'll call these changes here. Now, what we probably want is some author information in here. So I'll put my name in here and we'll apply those changes. So we've got a name, we've got the author name in here, we've got the version number, and we've made a good start. So we'll save that. And so here is our first entry in the table, and this information will go to live with the file. And then you come back and sometime later you do it again. More great changes, and this is version .02, and of course you can do a 1 dot and a 1.1, all those sort of things you would expect. And so here is version 2. I want to show you one other thing here that's related to version information before we leave, because at the moment what will happen is if you save this file, it will save it in simplefile.runthru, and that's perfectly fine, but it is an option. We'll come back into here, we'll come back into version information. It is an option to switch on something called a default file pattern, and in default file pattern you can click on these objects over here or type them in, where it might take the document title and then you can type some text, and then you could put in the version number, and then you could type some text and put in your name or initials or dates or whatever, and then when you save this file in the future, it will make a new version of the file with that information in it, in the title of the file plus the document. We'll do a save as, but you can see here it's taken migrate document, the version 02.runthru. So it can manufacture these file names for you if you wanted to collect a list of files through time that were, well, they're related versions of the same thing using different files on the disk. So that's an option for you as well, and it's basically making this automatic based on the change in date or version number using that little capability I just showed you. Okay, so that was a little bit about the simple versioning inside of the application. All right, when would I use tags? Well, what are tags and when would I use them? Tags are really, really cool, and I'm going to show you one example using a tag. And the scenario I'd like to do is if we have, we want to make one document, and that one document is going to have, it's for the instructor and the student. So this is an educational example. One document, one version for the instructors, one version for the student. That's what we want to do. So let's come into here and we'll invent something that makes sense. How about here? Let's duplicate this. So let's say this one here, this step here is to, the teacher, the instructor, must check these dates. Let's say you must check these dates for some special reason. But this is for the instructor to do. Step 3 is for the instructor to do before the students can go on and do something else, right? That's kind of the concept that we're going with. So tags are an advanced feature, and you can have lots of tags in your document for different things like languages. We have different sessions and information on tags, so I'm not going to go into it too far. But suffice to say that this file has multiple tags. The only one we care about at the moment is the instructor tag. And you can apply one of those tags to any given frame. And so this one is going to get the instructor tag, and you can see the appearance of that there and there. A frame can have more than one tag. It could be instructor in Italian, or instructor in Northern Hemisphere or Southern, whatever, it doesn't matter. It is a tag, and you can use the tags in a number of different ways. So once we've tagged this frame here, it's just for the instructor. What are we going to do with it? Well, we want to publish with and without this tag, because sometimes we need the tag and other times we don't need the tag. So let's go look at publishing. And you can see in here, you can publish to all, but you can publish to an individual tag. And that individual tag is instructor. Now, if I choose this method here, I'm only going to get one frame, which is this one here with the one step in it. Doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense. What I want is this case where I have everything in one scenario, and in another scenario, I have everything except this one particular tag. So this is the purpose of it, is to filter things in and out based on the particular thing that you're trying to do. So we need to have an answer for that question. How do we do that? Well, let's go ahead and have a look. So this is not a case where I can just say, I just want instructor. If it was like French and I had half of these in French and I said, just give me French, good enough, that would work. But in instructor case, it doesn't make sense. So we have to have a way of saying, give me the list with, give me the list without, and they're called groups. So these are tag groups, and we're going to have two. We'll start with this one here, and it's going to be called, we're going to be calling it the student version. And the student version, the participant version, it only has everything, but it doesn't have that instructor one. So student version, we'll start with all of the frames, but what we're going to do is subtract from the list the instructor. That's it. And so what we'll end up with is 5 of the 6 frames in this list. So this is the student version. And if we save that away and we go to publish, in publish we'll now see tag group, the student version, and if we publish that, we will not get you must check these dates. Let's just do it. It'll only take a moment. And here is our Word document 19, and it's in the format that we don't really want. We want print layout, I think. That looks a bit better. And so this is, we don't have that number 3 that we had before. We have our other number 3, which is the student number 3. That's what happens here. Okay, so it worked. We got what we needed, which is the student version of the document. However, now what we need is the instructor version of the document. Well, isn't that everything? That's just everything, isn't it? Well, that is absolutely true in this case, but it may not be in every case. The other thing that we want is we kind of want to tell the instructor, this is a step for you. We need to make it clear. So we're going to have another tag group. This tag group is going to be called, we'll call it the instructor version. The instructor version. And again, we're going to start with all frames, but well, hang on, that's all we need. We need all frames. So why have I come back in here to create this? Well, I've done that because in the final column for this tag group called instructor, you can say, if you see the tag called instructor, coincidentally the same name as this, coincidentally only, if you see the tag name called instructor, decorated. which is a kind of interesting way of saying point it out to me when I get there. So it's all the frames, not adding or subtracting anything, and including the one called instructor. And then when we publish a tag group called instructor, you'll see in the output you'll get all 6 frames, but what you'll also get is a decoration on the one for the instructor that might, or it should be, you must check these dates. What did I do? Let's go and have another look. The tag group called instructor, groups, instructor, decorate in Word, in PowerPoint, the student version, the instructor version, there it is. I've done something incorrect. Angry with myself. Tag group called instructor, renumber the steps, go to Word, one more time, document 21, and it should put, my mistake, I know what I've done. It comes with the frame title. Let's try one more time, and you'll see in here with the frame title, it will have this. So it comes with the frame title, which somewhat makes sense. And so it puts in that little, in this case, blue box with the white text on top of it, indicating that is for the instructor. That is how that works. So there's a fair bit going on in this area. There's some good content on the website that explains how to do that. And but if you need a hand, just reach out to support@runthru.com and we will certainly help you through it. But very, very powerful feature for using one document for doing multiple things. That's what tags is about. All right, capturing open menus. This is another common request. And I'm going to answer this in a couple of ways. Let's bring back the target application that if you've watched any of our training, you've seen this application before. It's just something we wrote with plenty of ambiguity in it. And it has in it, which is not unlike a lot of corporate applications, these are drop-downs, right? Combo boxes, they're technically called, these drop-down boxes. Menus, drop-down boxes, they all sort of open up. And we'll use this as an example. What we suggest to people is that, and the question is usually, well, if I want to capture an open menu like this, I want to capture an open menu. So, well, why do you want to do that is question one. And it kind of makes your documents look a bit cooler, maybe, but really, I think the answer is to just select the item, then take a screenshot of it, and you don't have to take a picture of an open menu. Just say, choose from the list, or choose this from the list. People know how to click on a list and open it and find what they're looking for, so you probably don't need a picture of it. But if you do, then I'm going to show you how to do that. So there's a number of ways of doing it. This auto paste is a good way of doing it. So this is case number 1. So we'll do auto paste. We'll bring this up. We'll pop up the list here. Not this one. We'll pop up a list, and we'll do Control-Shift-S for the Windows snipping tool. And as I drag a rectangle around anything I want, it will take a picture of it and it will put it into here with the open menu. Okay, little tip here. You can see what's happened is the menu fell off the bottom of the screen. Well, that's not exactly what we're looking for, is it? So we'll get rid of that one. We'll delete this frame, pop it out of the way, and let's consider, we'll put the auto paste back on. Let's consider a way of fixing that. Well, most applications are smart enough that if you position them at the bottom of the screen, they will change the way these sort of menus display. And so this menu has gone upwards. So if again I pop on the Windows snipping tool, I turn it into that mode which grabs whole windows, and I click on it, and then I get the open menu, and here it is positioned inside the screenshot, which doesn't have that extra stuff at the bottom of it, so it looks a lot nicer. That's one way of doing this. Now, there are going to be some occasions where you might have a bit of trouble using auto paste and the Windows snipping tool because the target kind of disappears. I have an example for you here, which is, so here's Excel. Let's pop it out of full screen mode and size it down in the interest of safety. So here's the idea. I know this is not a high quality idea, but let's pretend that you wanted to grab a picture of this little pop-up box. So I know it's just a little tooltip here, but it's the same concept in other web-based applications. Sometimes stuff disappears when you do Windows key Control S. It just disappears. So we need a way of capturing this sneaky menu, and I want to show you how to do that. All right, enter the snapping tool. So the snapping tool here is good at taking pictures of things by just pushing the button. So I position it on top of Excel, I make Excel active, I pop up my little box, but if I move away, unfortunately it disappears. So we turn it on to timer mode. We say, when you're ready, take a picture, and it counts down, disappears. I pop up the box and I wait, and then it will take the picture. So timer mode and hover mode is similar. Timer mode basically will take a picture of open menus. Hover mode is something similar. The idea with hover mode is you switch it on, you open your menus, you roll but don't click, and then it will take a picture. You leave your mouse there and then it will take a picture. But you haven't clicked on anything else, and so the menu remains open. So there's a couple of options there inside of the snapping tool, which will allow you to take these pictures of things like this with open menus, or in this case, a little floating prompt. Now, back to our list. All right, so that was catching up. Changing counter color. Okay, this is another good one. Here's the idea. Styles are centralized. They're centralized in the file and they're centralized in the theme which sits on your hard drive. But you can break the pattern. So let's have a look at this. Number 2 is selected. This press save, and for some reason you want this a different color from all the others in the list. Over here on the right hand side you get the properties for the selected item or the frame, the selected item or the frame, right? So over here we've got properties for press save. It is tied to the counter style, but you can override it. So inside of here I can say I want my counter to be green, but only in this case. That breaks the connection to the style. So if the style changes, this won't change. It's no longer connected to the original style. So that's how you make an individual one of these a different style. I'm going to reconnect it to the style called counter, because really what I want to do is I want to go and change all of them throughout the whole document. So I click on the little gear above this. This pops up a box. I check that it says counter here. There's a bunch of them. I want to change the one called counter. And inside of this world here, I want to change the counter color, and I want them all to be this lovely blue, and I apply the changes, and what you'll see through the whole document is that they will all pick up that blue with a green edge, which is what that tiny green edge there is, with a white number on them. So you can change the style. Now this is just changed for this document, but there is an option inside of this world where you can save it back into the theme. So if you make a change, apply the change, you'll then be able to save it back into the theme, which will apply to any new document that you create with that theme. So now with our little blue indicators here, we're looking in pretty good shape. One other thing that you may want to do, which is much more significant than just changing it inside of here, is swapping an entire theme. So I'm not going to bother doing this. I think I'll just show you where it is. You can open a file with a different theme. So you can take your current file or a file from your disk, and you can say change it from company A to company B. So if you are a supplier of content, help content, support content, or you have to do it for different brands, no problem. Inside of here you can open a file with a different theme, and it will prompt you, and then it will make everything green or blue, and then when you publish it will use different styles, and so that's how you do that. All right, let's see. Capturing open, changing counter color, template swapping was what I was just talking about. Which markup tool, image, snipped image sizes, and grouping. These things kind of, they're going to go together. We're going to talk about the markup tools, we're going to talk about snipped images and grouping, and they're the final things that we're going to talk about today. There are 3 primary markup tools. There are a number of supportive tools, 4 supportive tools, 3 primary markup tools, number of supportive tools. That's statement number 1. Statement number 2, at the bottom of the screen, things can be grouped together. Grouping at the bottom of the screen of items and markup elements up here at the top of the screen, and the really important ones are here. These are primary markup elements, these are supportive elements. And grouping is a really important part of how these things work. So let's talk first about which one of these I should use. This guy here is for pretty much everything. You point at stuff. They don't take up a lot of space on the screen. I'll just randomize some Latin words in this box here. So I want to say choose account details. It's obvious where it is on the screen. There's not a lot of noise here on the screen. It's kind of clear. So I point at it. I don't draw a box around it. But for little details that might be harder to find, and a good example of this might be Excel. So for good, and they might be icon based. Let's do that. This tool is for little details. So what I want to do here is I want to draw a little rectangle over this because I want you in the editing section to click on this, and we'll describe that using Latin text as well. This doesn't actually describe it, it's just randomized Latin words, but good enough. It's some filled text and it saves you having to watch me type. This tool is about little details, finding them and finding where they are and seeing what they look like. So this one for pointing at bigger things, this one for finding little details. So the effect of that in an output like Microsoft Word would be to create a little snippet of that part of the screenshot. So let me now show you what number 8 will look like. Number 7, number 8, this is what it looks like. So it grabs the tiny little target, but it also shows you where it is. Here it is on the screenshot, and this says find it and click on it in Latin. So this is a snip. This is a snip that comes out of here. It's like, this is where it is, this is what it looks like, now you know what you're doing. That's the purpose of it. Now, what happens, however, is that some people want to put big rectangles on the screenshot. And that's absolutely fine, but the best way of putting big rectangles on a screenshot, let's use this one, is to use a supportive rectangle. The second group of things. So instead of putting a big rectangle around this, no, let's change that. Instead of putting a big rectangle around these things on the left hand side here, what we'll do is we'll let's see, how about we reposition this. Yeah, let's do it like this, and we'll add a rectangle around the whole status section. So this rectangle around the whole status section, currently in red, but it doesn't have to be, it can be anything you want. This rectangle around the whole status section is a little supportive helper, and it is grouped together with number 1. That's important for many of the outputs. Many of the outputs, they need to be grouped together. Less so Microsoft Word, but they definitely need to be grouped together if you want to make PowerPoint. Just to labor this a little bit, if it was now hanging out with number 2, when you published a PowerPoint, number 2 and the rectangle would turn up together on their own slide, and number 1 would be on its own without a rectangle. This is why the grouping is really important. Same thing in video. So, a whole bunch of things going on here, but basically you use supportive tools along with these guys here to produce this sort of result. So when you publish this out to Word, it's going to look right. I'm going to show you a couple of advanced things here in just a second, but let's scroll down the page to find the screenshot that we're looking for. Sorry, it's this one here, number 4. It's not number 4 at all, is it? It's this one here, it's number 1. So number 1 is pointing at these objects on the left-hand side of the page. Now the benefit of that is, I mean, that's a full resolution picture. You don't need to recreate this over on the left-hand side here as a snipped image, as has happened here. So number 4, similar. It's a lovely big picture. It's full resolution. You really don't need to have a snipped image. So, but we've used the tool that automatically makes snipped images called the area tool. So up here, I just use a rectangle, which doesn't give us a snipped image, same sort of result. Down here, I've used the area tool, which gives us a snipped image. So what I'd like to do is show you now how you can switch off that snipped image and still use the rectangle, this area tool. All right, back here we go. I'll tell you what, we'll delete these things here and we'll use this tool like so. This is exactly the same as the step that we had before. It has some content in it. It has this maybe sitting down here. But what we really don't want is we don't want the internal content of this box turning up in our Word document. So how do we do that? Well, that's an advanced setting. So what we can do here is we can turn off the snipped image in the outputs. Don't show the snipped image in the output. But hang on, it's grayed out. Well, we've got to enable this feature inside of Preferences. So let's do that. File, Preferences, Snipped Images, switch it on, save this away, close the box, and inside of here we can now suppress this one but get the other snipped images that we want in the output. And so we'll publish this now, and you'll see that this one, which is step 3, zooming out, step 3, step 3, step 3, is going to give us the result that we're looking for. So it has used the area tool, very cool, but it doesn't have the snipped image in here because it really was just going to occupy too much space, and it doesn't add anything because it's so clear in the screenshot what we've got to do. All right, so I think we're almost there. So let's just clean up the decks and have a look at our little list. So we've looked at snipped images and sizing, we've spoken about the markup tools, and we've spoken about grouping. The final markup tool is this one here. It occupies any space that you put it on top of. It is good for large areas, and it is very good when you combine it with other things such as the rectangle tool. Very good for stuff like that. But it doesn't have an arrow and it doesn't have an area. But you would use it to introduce a new page that was opened, and potentially it might not even be a counter. It might be a warning or an information step or something similar. So these are the sort of things that you can do with the markup tools. This one, this one, and this one. And these are a supportive act. Well, I think we're done. Thanks very much for listening. Thank you very much for using our software, and we stand ready to help you. So if you do need a hand, please reach out to support@runthru.com and we'd be delighted to help you. This is a recording of the last webinar of the year, and so take the opportunity to say thanks for the company this year, thank you for using our software, and thank you for all the great support. Thanks for being part of the community. We really do appreciate it. Hope you have a great Christmas season and a wonderful new year. Thank you everyone. Bye for now.